How's it, guys? How's everyone? Here we are again, 21 CPT study group coming at you live. Now, I know I mentioned on Saturday in our week 2 video lesson that part of the plan is to begin to divide this up twice a week, just because I felt like the video lesson was so long. My last one was 47 minutes that it's kind of hard to stick to um, making it through all of that effectively, trying to pick up on everything, all the details that are being discussed. So the new format that I'm going to kind of tinker with this week is a midweek kind of checkup where I've gotten a few questions that I can kind of touch up on and answer that have come throughout the week, and then also just add in some focus midweek, and then at the end of the week, the Saturday delivered Sunday will still be the weekly video lesson. So for example, this week's video lesson is going to be on presentations. And so even with presentations, the question I get is it too early to talk about presentations? Shouldn't we be focusing more on the exam, more on exam prep, more on assessments, more on our SOGs? And what I have to say to that is, no, it's not necessarily too early, because again, as we talked in week 1, if you are here for the long haul and your goal is to be a captain, this is not some passing, I'm going to go for it this time, captain's exam is here, I'm going to ramp up for it, then you should have an ongoing process where you are constantly thinking about how you can better the department. Because as I mentioned, that's what we're looking for when we talk about captain's candidates. Guys, we want to promote to captain. So it should be an ongoing process where, we just had CPR. How could we improve CPR? We're going through EMR. How can we improve EMR? Or perhaps another refresher training. Perhaps you took an NFA class, a leadership class recently, something to that effect, some kind of certification course, and it should kind of, or perhaps you went on a call, a challenging call type, like, we could look at a cadre for this, or we could look at improving or making suggestions to a cadre. That should always be an ongoing process, which is why I think presentations, it's not too early. We should definitely include that in this study group. So that will be this week's video lesson. If I'm looking down, it's because I have my watch on, because I do not want this to be run into something very, very long. That's kind of the goal, is to keep these a little bit more tight. So first question, I'll touch upon some of the questions, is thanks for the catch. I knew the right answer. For some reason, I just put, when I was actually typing out the answer sheet, I must have mistyped. So when a chief officer arrives on scene concurrently as the first in unit, the chief officer should assume command. So when you see that question, I accidentally mismarked it, and just know that the chief officer should assume command. Thank you guys for catching that. So far, I find that I'm getting about 1 error per 20 questions, and that's pretty good. But I'll be honest, when I got the text today from 2 guys that I had missed that, it stayed with me for a few hours. But again, that's just me being hard on myself. So I'll try and validate the questions a little bit better moving on towards the future. One of the things I'm looking at is, I feel like 20 questions is not enough. I want to try and give you guys more. So for example, I finished the EMS SOG practice exam yesterday while I was at work, and I bumped it up to 30 questions. It took me an extra hour or 2 to write, but I'm trying to provide more value. So if I have the time and if I can do it, 20 will be the standard, but I will try and start adding more questions to the practice exams. So that was one thing. Another was resume. I got a few of you call me or text me or ask me, how does the resume need to look? Does it need to be my A resume at this point? And I say no. So when you submit the resume right now, all you're doing is you're meeting the application requirement that you need to include a resume for the application, for your application to be valid. As far as whoever is going to be the chief officers or the body interviewing you for the promotion, they're not even going to look at this resume. This is basically going into a file that goes up to DPS to qualify you for captain. If and when you score high enough and you make it through the assessment and you come in for an interview, at that time is when you will bring your A resume with you, and then that is where you submit your resume 10 minutes prior to your interview. The chiefs sit down, they go through it line by line, they look at it, and they discuss what's on your resume, what they like, what they're seeing. But that is the time when we're going to really tighten up our resume. So as you guys remember, I teach a resume building course that also kind of concurrently teaches resume building and career planning. So maybe tomorrow I will try and talk to training, and we'll see if we can lock up some classrooms. If not, maybe we can look for another avenue. I know when you want to deliver a training class, training needs 7 weeks notification to put on a course. And I'm trying to look to do it sometime before Christmas, and that timeline might be too tight. So maybe if I can find another location, we'll try and pound out a resume building workshop as well. So one-on-ones, I know I mentioned I opened up one-on-ones for people outside of my battalion, and what I want to say is I have a training plan for when I come to do the one-on-one with you guys. I have a certain, these are the assessments we're going to do. I also wrote sample interview questions, and then I leave a portion where you guys can kind of bounce ideas back and forth with me if you have anything you want to clarify, anything I can ask that I can answer without giving away any information that I may be privy to that I cannot, so I won't. But anything that I can help you with, I will try and help you with. But so within this, even though I have a structure, what I want to say is in this one-on-one time, if you sign up for one, is this is your time. So just because I have a plan, we can do whatever you want. If you want to just ask me questions for an hour, if you want me to work with you specifically on assessments, or specifically on speaking, or specifically on study habits, or how to build study schedules, we can do that. Just what I'll do is from whenever you sign up, I'll text you a day or two before, tell you this is what I have planned, but at the same time, what would you like to do? So if you sign up for a study session, just keep that in mind. Additional, so I am working as BC5 on November 6th. What I did is I went back into the one-on-one sign up and I added 4 slots for November 6th. November 6th is a B-Watch day. So if you are on B-Watch and you're working November 6th and you want to jam out some one-on-one, me and you, go ahead and sign up November 6th. And I added it to the sign-up sheet, that the Google form that I already forwarded to you guys. Only 4 slots. I know there's more than that on B-Watch, so try and sign up early. If I have a lot of guys want to sign up, I will try and add more sessions for that day. The next question was, or comment / question was, when you are studying the SOGs, I would not necessarily use the hard copy SOG that you have at the station, because it may or may not include the latest revisions that just came out. I want to say May and July. There were several more revisions that came out after August, but I would assume that our study material or our reference material had already been forwarded to the test writing company, so those won't be included. But the gist of it is, if you use a hard copy in your station, you may not have the most updated version. And even when I was at Engine 1 the other day, one of the guys brought up the point to me that, nice catch, was that in the answer I put, one of the answers I gave was correct according to the old SOG, but it was revised in the new SOG. So even noticing those little details will matter. So if you are studying, make sure that you study from the most recent SOGs. And again, it's really easy. It's a PDF. You drop it on your phone, you drop it on your tablet, and you always have it available, depending on if you have a Mac or whatever, Windows, that archaic machine, or your phone. There's tons of editing. I mean, you can do all your highlights and everything right on your phone while you're studying. So keep that in mind. The most recent SOG will be the digital version on the shared drive. This is one I want to talk about real fast. Is several of you have been asking, how you can pay me back for all of this, and what I say is, Um, this is actually not something you pay me back for. This is something I pay the department back for, as in the department has invested a ton in me, and I've got to go to a ton of places and do a ton of things in the department. And as I kind of close out my career with 5.5 years, I'm not one of those guys that is gonna take all this with me and not share it. I'm gonna, if I have toys, I'm gonna leave them behind, and I'm gonna leave instructions. Okay, here's a 1,000-piece Harry Potter set. Here are the instructions to build it. Whatever, you get it. But basically, the point is, I'm not going to take all that with me. I want to make sure I leave as much as I can, and that's why I speak candidly and openly, and always encourage you guys ask. If I can ask without betraying any ethics involved with my position, I'll answer, and I'll give you guys honest feedback. So when it comes to paying me back, here's what I ask. If you want to pay me back, is, as most of you are in firefighter 3 positions looking to become company officers, what I would ask is, what you can already do in your firefighter 3 position, is pay me back by passing this on, what we're doing here. And what I consider this to be is career planning, preparation, mentoring of sorts. So what I mean is, before the end of the year, you want to pay me back, here's what you can do before the end of the year, is, as a driver, have conversations, sidebars, and you talk to your captain, clear with your captain, sidebars, unofficial, informal, but talk to your 3 firefighters about their career planning. It would be easy to say, lead them in a training drill, but we have tons of access. We're at a point in our department where we have very little trouble doing any operations training. That's second nature to us at this point. But when you think of the fire service and the tradition and all the good traditions within the fire service, there's also several traditions that should change for the betterment of our members. And one of those is that old school, we don't talk about it attitude. We kind of just we just kind of nod it. You understand what I'm saying, right? Yeah, okay, good. And we cannot operate like that anymore. We have to be deliberate. We have to be open in our conversations with others. So what I mean is, what I'm asking you to do is, before the end of the year, sometime, it'll take 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, 30 minutes there, is talk to each of your 3 firefighters about their futures, about their career plan. Have serious conversations. Share your experiences with them, like I'm sharing my experiences with you, and give advice and really listen. Give them an ear to listen critically, and help them reflect critically on what they want to do and where they want to go, and really what it'll take to achieve what they want to do. So that is what I would ask that you can do to pay me back for what I'm doing. Roll it forward. So thank you. Okay. Now, so that was the questions I got. Now, I just want to add a few more things based on, I'm at 13 minutes already. That was fast. So I just want to add on a few more based on my last PowerPoint. So one of the things I want to mention is I'm filming this on my phone in one take. So sometimes I forget to say stuff, or I meant to, and I have to add it in later. So like here. So the first one I wanted to bring up that several of you mentioned is vacancies. And I know I said I anticipate 3 captains vacancies. And I should have remembered is, obviously we're going to have chief officer vacancies. So if I'm putting my input, or if you were asking me for my educated guess, one factor I want to say before that is, you got to remember that the possible discussion is, if this is logistically feasible, that these assessments, that these exams would take place annually in the future. I'm not saying that's gonna happen. I'm not saying it's, I would think that there's a good chance, but I'm not saying it's gonna start next year. I can't really give a timeline because there really isn't one established. This is a new system. We've never even done this before. We have to start with that first. But so would it be annual, or would it continue to be biennial, which it is now? If it were to be annual, like say it was next year, which I doubt, I would anticipate there would be 8 vacancies, give or take, on this current list. If it remains biennial, which means the next one would be fall winterish 2023, fall winterish 2023-24, that October to January February timeline in 2 years, is then I would give an educated guess. I would anticipate, give or take, 12 captains promotions from this list. In the years past, and again, so now because we're dealing with a whole new system, so for example, the years past, like when I took the captain's exam was it 2013? And basically, yeah, 2013. So when we took the captain's exam, yeah, because every 2 years, that's an odd year, 2013. So when we took it with, I want to say 52 people take it, 52 people take it. Under the old way, roughly half would not pass. So if 50 take it, 25 would pass. So your goal is to get into was to get into the upper half that pass. 50 take, 25 don't pass, 25 do. If you get into the upper half of the passing, if you get in that top 12, you will get to an interview. That was kind of the strategy back then. That is gone, because we have a new strategy. So one of the things, and correct me if I'm wrong, if any of you saw this in the posting, but my belief is that there is no passing. Before, you had to pass with a 70 on the written to even move forward to combine your experience to get a combined score. Now it'll be just a score based on the 100 that we mentioned, right? 55 assessment, 5 education, 20 seniority, 20 written, and you could come out with a score of 46, or you could come out with a score of 76. But the fact of the matter is, the list will generate with everyone. My understanding is the list will generate with everyone on there. Now you take into account that now it's 1 for 10 versus 1 for 5 that it had always been previously. I mean, it'll be very interesting, the changes in this exam and how people come into the interviews now. So it'll be very interesting. But as far as discussing vacancies, I wanted to make sure I corrected or added to what I said in lesson 2, video lesson 2. So that would be what I would anticipate. Most recent SOG assessments. The last thing I want to talk about is, so coming back to the reading, I know I mentioned, you read 5 to 6 hours at work during this time, and you read 1 or 2 hours at home. You're gonna get through the SOGs once a week. And even if you go to the light schedule, you'll get through the SOGs twice over the entire study schedule. When I was talking to somebody today, it dawned on me that I really hadn't said this as explicitly as I wanted to. So you got to keep in mind, when we say that we're reading 5 to 6 hours at work now, this shouldn't be a ramp up where you don't read the SOGs or the rules and regulations outside of a promotional process. So as something as simple as, if you read 30 minutes a day at work, we work 120 days a year. Let's say you're in class for 10 and you take vacation for 10, or leave for 10, so you end up working 100 or some odd days, and you read 30 minutes a day. I mean, you're going to get through 2,000 pages. All our materials combined are about 800. So depending on how much you read or how fast you read, if you read 30 minutes a day at work, you can get through all our references, all the SOGs, 2 or 3 times a year easy. And when you think of what our SOGs are, it's kind of silly. It's not the right word I want to use, but it's kind of, I guess, silly that we don't read the SOGs more, because it's very easy to get through the SOGs. And when you do that, when you get that kind of rhythm, and you come up for the promotional process again, especially if it moved into every year. Now, if you're a firefighter, that could potentially be 2, because there's the firefighter 2 and the firefighter 3. When you look at it from that point of view, the SOGs are in your head. And when you come to this promotional process, all you're doing is you're just cleaning it up, you're touching. Now you're looking at understanding the SOGs to a deeper level, because you've already read it, yeah? Now it's just you're building on top of that, versus you haven't read the SOGs at all, and now you're trying to stuff that. The way our memory works is our memory works in different regions of our brain based on how much synthesis is involved. So I keep talking about cache memory. So cache memory, if you think of like a computer, is a computer has RAM, right? And cache memory is almost, I'm trying to make this simple for myself because my computer systems education is so long ago. Your cache memory is a kind of like a memory that is in a nearer point to what you're doing versus your storage memory. So basically all the processes used more often are in your cache memory, so your computer can access them faster versus routing the longer pathway to your other information. So when I talk about cache memory, that's what we're trying to build here, is because we only have 5 weeks. So we're not going to be able to really synthesize the information as much as if we were reading constantly throughout the year. We're just trying to put it right here so that it is effective for us to use when we need to in 5 weeks. But really, the better memory building is to do it in our long-term memory storage. And that is really the huge advantage of reading the SOGs year over year. And again, 30 minutes a day. Now, what I want to add into that is the reading of the SOGs is not because we are prepping for promotional exams. The SOGs are our guidelines that kind of lead us in everything we do in our day-to-day work activities. So the example I'll give as an assessor, delivering assessments in promotional exams, one of the things that is very clear when you're an assessor is when you're giving an assessment and you're receiving the answer, it's very clear that this person either knows the SRG or does not know the SOG. Now, if he knows the SOG, once you establish if somebody knows the SOG or doesn't know the SOG, when he does, now you're trying to establish how well he can deliver what's in the SOG, or you kind of have an understanding like, okay, he knows the SOG, he just doesn't have that, his ability to extract and verbalize that information is not as strong as his knowledge in it, but he knows it. So as an assessor and more as a chief officer, I would say, when you're sitting in these SOGs, when you're sitting in these assessments and candidates come in and they're given an assessment and it's clear that they have no idea of anything in the assessment, it can be a little disheartening because there is an expectation. It's like, okay, we gave you this assessment, you don't know it, but yet there's a potential that you could be promoted in 2 weeks, and this is the first call you go on. And that is that should, for you as a candidate, that should weigh very heavily. That example alone, the responsibility of what it means to be a captain, and when we talk about all this preparedness and readiness, and we talk about this study schedule, this study group, you got to understand is this study group doesn't make you a captain. Your daily preparation, I keep harping on, your attitude, your commitment to excellence, that's what makes you a captain. This is just meant to help put you in a better place to be a captain, or not better place, but to help you enhance your qualification when you go through the assessment. But you're not going to be a captain based on being in the study group or not and being successful in the exams. So the how I like to think of it is, so a driver is an SR21, a captain is an SR25. If you are a driver and you feel that you are ready and you want to be a captain, then you should think of yourself as an SR24, right? So if you're truly ready and you built readiness to be a captain, it's not a great leap from driver to captain. You're already on the verge, you're already on the cusp, you already think of yourself as right there. So when you step into the role, it'll be a very smooth transition. It's not supposed to be a shocking, a jarring transition between driver and captain. What else can I say about this? So when you think of, if you're a driver now, how do you build that readiness? How do you feel like an SR24? Like, no, I'm going to step in day one and I'd be ready. Well, some of the things you can do is already already seek out that responsibility, seek out that that opportunity for leadership, and you can do that by talking to your captain. And I harp on this all the time too. Is the relationship between a driver and a captain is huge, so important for the success of both, and for the success of the company. But that's something you can do already. Hey, Cap, you mind if I split reports with you? You mind if I write them all for more practice? And it's a funny thing is I hear a lot of drivers, I hate writing reports. Oh yeah, studying for the captain's exam. You hate writing reports, but you want to be a captain. That's the kind of things you have to think about, right? That that this is what a captain is, and these are the things you do now, not as an ancillary or step up to a TA position, but as your regular job duty. So I mean that's one. And what I also want to say is for firefighters, the same applies. You're more than, and I know a lot of you already do this, but you're more than, you can be more than willing to already talk to your driver. Hey, you mind if I do this? You mind if I take this on as my responsibility? You can kind of oversee me from time to time. I mean, as far as driver responsibilities, and of course your drivers and captains are going to love and want to help you out with that, right? It's the showing of initiative. So my example with readiness, again, SR24 to SR25, is when I first got promoted to captain, and I went to Molokai on my first day, and it was kind of a trip because I had AO'd a bunch. My captain had TABC'd when I was a driver in Lahaina. So I would AO 3-4 months out of the year. I would AO 30-40 day work shifts in 120. And I thought that I had it all figured out, but I didn't, and I wasn't even close, because again, we come back to what I mentioned in week 1. Many people in our department have the technical capability and skill to run calls. And if you look at the captain's PD, the position description, running calls is only 20% of the captain's job duties, right? Emergency response is only 20% of the captain's job duties. And I thought that's what it took to be a captain. So when I actually got promoted to Molokai, when I got promoted to captain, and I got to Molokai, and my first day, and I'm standing in the station, it's the kind of thing, I'm not the assistant coach just calling the plays for the day, right? Daddy's not coming back next day. I'm Daddy. But it's the kind of thing where I stood there and it's like, this is all mine. This is ours. This is my house. This is my station. This is my company. Everything comes back to me, the good and the bad. There's as a driver, whether you know it or not, there's always that bailout feeling. Nah, not the Cap. Or Cap's coming back. Yeah, Daddy coming back. He on vacation. That goes away very quickly when you're captain. And so on my first day, there was a part of me that was scared, and that just showed that I wasn't ready to be a captain. And that's something I readily share, but it showed me that what I thought I knew a captain was, especially all the technical opportunities I had been given to develop my skills in that realm, really had very little to do with the maturity and attitude it takes to be a captain. So that's something that you gotta consider as you go through this journey. So coming back to how that looks in the assessments is, it's the kind of thing that I always say, hope is not a strategy. So you cannot get promoted to captain on your first day and I can learn this now. Okay, I'm gonna work on this. I'm gonna work on this. I'm gonna work on this. I hope that if we go on this call, this happens, or I hope if we go on this call, this doesn't happen because I'm not ready, and I'm gonna have to figure out on the fly. And again, on the fly is also not a strategy. You need to be solid when you step into this position because it is all yours. But yeah, that's pretty much the last thing I wanted to share. So again, thank you. Midweek lesson, and Saturday I will put out the presentation video lesson. And again, thank you guys. Please continue to give me feedback. I've gotten a lot of good feedback and a lot of constructive feedback on how I can help you guys better and make these better over the last 2 days. So please continue, because if not, it's just me guessing. So, but yeah, thank you, and look forward in the future to video lesson 3, which will be presentation this Saturday.